Greetings, everyone, and we're here for another Anime Anticlimax. I'm SeptumSin. I'm here with Brittany from Danejurous Arts, or I don't know. Then we have Kotobuki Jake, my co-host, and of course this is his birthday quarter, where he gets this quarter of the year to pick the anime that we watch. So I'm going to hand this over to him while I message Roger and see if he's still coming.
Okay.
And tell us what it is that you picked out for us this time.
Alrighty. We're stepping back a little ways, back into the early 90s, specifically 1993, to a 5-episode OVA series based on the series Megami-sama by what is it? Kyosuke Fujimoto. Am I remembering that correctly?
It is Kyosuke Fujisama.
Yeah. Yes, Kosuke Fujishima. There we are. And this is a property that has had an interesting animation history. We had this OVA series in 93. Then there was The Adventures of Mini Goddess, a fun spin-off series of shorts that came out, I think, in 98. And then they did a movie, and I think it was the year 2000. And then they did a series, which was basically ran in 2 parts in the early aughts, followed by a handful of random OVAs over the next couple decades. So I believe the people behind the anime have claimed that they still have story yet to tell, but I don't know if any additional episodes have come out lately. I don't think they have. But anyway, so this one does kind of work as a standalone. It has a much more old school art style that, Brittany, I think you know the manga a little bit. Is this pretty close to the manga, or is this just more... What's that?
It's very close to the manga with the exception of the very beginning of the manga. Because Fujishima didn't really know what color he wanted Belle Danny's hair. So if you've got an early copy of the manga, like I do, her hair is purple.
Oh, okay. That's a little different.
Yeah.
Well, I know in some of the art for this one, some of the art is shown in different colors. And I think in one of the ending ones, Scold had kind of like it was like a dark blue hair. And in most other animation, it's almost black. So they definitely had some differences with that.
And this is one that I actually have read a good portion of the manga as well.
I was
big into it when it was in Dark Horse and they were releasing it. Matter of fact, it was one of the few manga that Dark Horse released. So yeah.
I have the original.
At any rate, now that we have our main 4 here, let's go ahead and do first impressions. I guess we've already covered a little bit of it just now. But we'll just start, I guess, to my right and work our way around. Or no, let's start to the left because I have a little better idea. With Roger's going to be more the odd one out for me for this part of it. So we'll start with you, Brittany. I know this is not your first time with this, but what is your history with this series, this OVA, and what's your impressions?
As a comic reader of the 90s, I was picking up the comics first. Literally the comic issues, because that's how Dark Horse originally released it. Then I picked up the manga books and eventually found out, hey, there's an OVA, and it's in English. So I got the VHSs because that's all that was available at the time. And yeah, watched them. It was okay. There are some differences, notably towards the end. And they actually censored the version from the comics because the comics let it fly.
Okay. All right. Was that it?
Yeah, I don't want to go too much in depth.
Oh, okay. All right. How about you, Brandon?
Brandon?
Sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing. Yeah, I actually was first introduced to the series back when I was reading Ranma 1/2 in the 90s. And I found a copy of Love Potion number 9, which was one of the stories that was Erd-centric, where Erd had made a love potion and accidentally drank it herself and fell in love with Kenichi, which was very fun. And so I wanted to learn more about it, and then I found these these discs that I've got now at a old shop, and I really enjoyed it. I was glad to see this. I was glad to see the movie, and I was even more glad when they released a larger form of it later on. So it's still one of my favorites to this day.
All right, very good. And how about you, Roger? Is this your first impression with My Goddess, and what is your overall?
Well, definitely it's not my first time. I have a lot of history with My Goddess. At the beginning, of course, I read it in the comic book form from Dark Horse. Eventually became a graphic novel, so all the pages were flipped, and maybe the translations were not as good. They're simply that's the way it was back then. There was some conjecture in the beginning because some people wanted to translate it as "Oh my Goddess," and then some people wanted to translate it as "Ah my Goddess." The mangaka said for him didn't really matter, but I know there was some sort of talk about back in the day. Sometime in the mid '90s, Animega released it in Forrest and tape, which of course I picked up. It was one, I seem to remember that it was one of their last new releases. They had already put out the Bubblegum Crisis and Maddox and other stuff. So it's one of their last releases before they stopped putting out stuff. That I would recognize as new anime. Of course, I've watched this series quite a few times back in the day. So when Kabuki Jake wanted me to watch it again, it's been like something like 25 years since I watched the show. This is how long it has been. And of course, I'm familiar with the TV series, both from, I think one was from Media Blasters and the other one's from ADV. For some odd reason, they had split the series in half, the TV series. To this day, I don't know the reason why. If it was money, if it was because that was the agreement to bring it over. I don't know. But again, I have a lot of history with My Goddess.
All right, sounds good. And for me personally, yeah, I've a pretty good history with this one too. I can't swear to it what my initial introduction was. I feel like, and Brandon and Brittany can correct me if they think I'm wrong about this, I feel like this was something that had been mentioned multiple times in game, if not in game, then in our group. I actually feel like this was actually, wasn't Erd a character in our Naruto game or something to that effect?
No, I never introduced these characters.
I feel like there was something related to it in Naruto, but maybe
we probably were talking about it.
Yeah,
but,
maybe.
Yeah.
I feel like you and Brandon and George were all already familiar with the show, and
I know there was mention in a game.
Okay.
Whether there was a character or not, I thought there was myself. So maybe we're both misremembering. I don't know.
there's a lot.
They'd be way too OP.
Well, yeah. But there were some
like,
OP characters in there that were side characters that just didn't join the team. They were like masters or something like that.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff from back in the day that I barely remember. I wish I remember a lot more of it. But
We had a lot of anime cameo.
yes,
in there.
yes. But and at this point, like, I feel like this was probably one that was my introduction. But then I think it was one of the ones where Brandon's like, yeah, you ought to see this. Now, whether you actually showed it to me first, hard to say. I
Very
feel like
possible. It's short enough.
You might have watched Mini Goddess first.
What's that?
You might have watched Mini Goddess first.
I was about to say, I think Brandon probably showed me either. I think he showed me the first season actually of the main series. And then maybe I might have borrowed season 2 and Mini Goddess, and then maybe this after. Because I feel like this might have been the last of those parts I got to. Whether I saw this before or after the movie, I have no idea. I couldn't even pretend to guess. I feel like the movie was near the end of the queue, though, in terms of which ones I got to when. So I saw them all out of order in terms of when they were actually released. That's what I think I remember right. But what I do know is that, and that may have been one of the reasons why this one never hit me as deeply as the series itself did, partly because seasons 1 and 2 have just 2 of the best openers ever, and I friggin' love them. I love this one too, but I really love those 2. I like the more modern art style of the series, and this one has more of a, I would almost say, a scruffy look. It has more of a manga look. Like, it really does, which is not a bad thing. It's just not what I was introduced to, so it's not what I usually want to think of when I think of these characters.
I think all the series, including the movie, were pretty on point to the manga art.
They're all
which
very
is impressive.
They're
because
all very yeah.
Fujishama or Shima is a huge machine file.
Right.
Also, Alma Goddess is also a property that's been spread around quite a bit. I think Mini Goddess went to like Pioneer.
Yeah.
The one part went to Media Blasters. The other part, the ADV, the original series, came from Animego.
Yeah.
So it's an old series, so you're going to have some history of multiple formats, like on tape, DVD, and Laserdisc. I have not seen a Blu-ray set yet, in America. And I believe
I've seen a Blu-ray
went to Bondi. I've seen there was maybe a couple of covers. One went to Bondi, and maybe another one, and the other version of the movie might have gone back to Pioneer. It's a long series, so there's a lot of talk about how it was released and how it was translated.
And as far as what you just said, the show is, I think, fondly remembered by people who were in anime in the late 90s and the early aughts, but it's kind of fallen by the wayside, and I don't know if there have been any re-releases since things really started coming out on Blu-ray.
No.
Well, I mean, the series ended in the 10s.
Right.
And you still have the fan base for Belle Dandy as basically the perfection waifu choice.
Yeah.
Yamamoto Nadesco, I think they call him. Yamamoto Nadesco was just the perfect housewife, perfect lady.
Wasn't Belle Dandy briefly the goddess for Animazing for a little while? She took over for
There was an attempt to have. There was a person that had some. Hey, let's have some more goddesses. I said, okay, let's see if you can compete with Haruri. And there was a small attempts, but Belle Dandy fell by the wayside, as well as was a Holo as well, fell by the wayside. And of course, we don't really
A
have.
Holo's coming back.
Yeah. The but one thing as far as the release too, which has always bugged the crap out of me, and I do think this series is more than it needs a re-release. It needs a dusting off and a and another point on that in a minute, but the OVAs that followed the series never got American releases. I don't think any of them have an American official release. If they have, I've never seen it. So I would really, really love to see that happen. I haven't even seen all of them because some of them are so hard to come by.
Yeah, I think that the manga really needs to be released because it was done in a piecemeal kind of thing.
The manga has been re-released. They did an omnibus release, if I'm not mistaken, or they're working on it now.
I think they were.
What OVAs are you talking about there, Jacob?
The OVAs that were bonus episodes for the series.
No, there weren't. I'm literally looking here.
What's that?
I'm literally looking at the releases. Not happened.
Okay. Let me see here. Let me see what
And there was no OVA for this series.
No, there wasn't.
There was an OVA for the main Oh My Goddess series, but I could be wrong.
Oh My Goddess is the OVA.
Yeah,
there is no OVA. Oh My Goddess.
At that time, it was known as I think it was Oh My Goddess.
Yeah.
Because then they named Oh My Goddess. But
okay.
Things about how you would want to make it, how you want to have it as an O or as an Ah.
Okay, let's see here. Itsumo Futari Day. That was a 2011 OVA. There's also, let's see here. Fighting Wings also came out in 2011. I believe I did see that one. That was 2 episodes. Maybe
Fighting Wings is a 2007 special to commemorate the 20th anniversary.
Okay, yeah, that is 2007. Why? Oh, that's right. It's the what do we got here? Oh, I was looking at the one for Itsumo Futari Day when I was so that tracks with what I remember. 2007, 2011. Yeah, those were definitely follow-ups to the actual series. Which, like I said, never got an American release. Flights of Fancy was an 2006 release, and the other show was what is this? 2005. Yeah, 5 and 6. That's when. Okay, so Fighting Wings was right on the heels of the second one, I guess. But anyway, that's I
think you're also confusing that they were specials and not OVAs. There's a good difference there.
I guess you got a point there, but to someone who did not get any access to them other than through torrents, it's all the same.
It's still. Yeah, you're probably only going to see it through a torrent. You're not going to find it in the U.S.
Yeah, so like I said, if they ever re-release the series, they need to pick those up too. And the other thing, a comment as well about the art style and how distinct it is. Very distinctive. Of course, this author is also the author behind a long-running franchise, You're Under Arrest, which is also pretty much out of print. But you can definitely
he basically sat there and said, "Hey, I'm doing one series. Let me do another one as well at the same time."
Yeah, it's a fun one. It is.
Yeah,
but
You're Under Arrest is a great series. Ironically, the English voice actor of the OVA of Belle Dandy is the main female in You're Under Arrest.
Whoa, which main female? There's 2.
Mizaki.
Okay. Which one's that one again?
the Honda lover.
Oh, okay. But the less crazy one?
Well, she's the mechanical crazy one.
Right. It's like
They're both crazy,
they're both crazy.
but they're crazy in different ways.
Right. Well, I mean, one of them's like more kind of serious, and she's like,
That's
the other
Mizaki.
one, yeah. But anyway, that's a different one. We should hit that one eventually. But back to this one. So basically, we have again very short series, and I have not yet been fortunate enough to read the manga. I want to. It's on my to-do list. I'm really one of these days. I fully intend to, but there's so many manga I'm working on right now. I hesitate to look up new ones.
Well, there's about 48 volumes of Alma Goddess, and you'll see that the beginning of the artwork was remarkably, there's quite a bit of difference how progressed in the artwork as it went along, especially after the OVAs and the TV series came out. I think Fukushima was influenced by that and decided to change Beldandi's artwork on her face and her hair and all that kind of stuff.
She has a much, like, in this version, I feel like, and I wonder if y'all would agree, I feel like in this version, she looks a lot younger. Keiichi as well. Both of them look a lot younger. I feel like
she's definitely shorter in this OVA.
Yes, he is. He's a
which is appropriate because in the first issue of the manga, he is relatively short to Belbandi.
Now, of course, it's never more apparent how small he is than when he's standing next to his senpais. Of course, they're oversized to begin with. But
hard to believe they're high schoolers or any kind but full adults.
They kind of feel like the kind of individuals who never really moved on.
They didn't. They were seniors in college for about 12 years.
What was that thing that they said in and it was like 7 years of college down the drain or something like that?
I'm making fun of the thing, the very element in my own recent comic series where I have a character who's been there for 7 years as a freshman.
But and I do have to admit the senpais, what is it, Tamiya and Otaki, I believe. They've always amused me. They're they're nuts. But and this was my first time watching the English dub. The first time watching the English dub, and I believe it's Tamiya that has the big mane of hair and the glasses, right?
I'm trying to get back.
They kind of played.
I'm going through the characters. Tamiya is the dark-skinned hulking man.
The hulking.
And Otake is the skinny, blonde, spiky hair. Who has a fear of dogs.
Okay. So Otake, then, in the English dub, they kind of play, it almost sounds like he's imitating Jess Piccoli crossed with Keanu Reeves. Like maybe he couldn't really decide which. But I just was like, that's
was weird.
What's
Most of the voice cast is kind of off a little bit in this OVA. I do appreciate the ADV dub of the TV series a little bit better.
Okay.
But we do get the voice of Parn from Record of Lotus War as the Keiichi.
Huh. So I have to admit, this was my first time. I think this was my first time watching any of it in a dub, and I decided to go ahead and give it a try. I really love the Japanese voice cast here. I mean, the three main goddesses, they're big names. You got Kikuko Inoue as Beldandy, you got Umitoma as Erd, and Aya Hizakawa as Skuld. And what Keiichi is, who is he again? Masami Kikuchi. you got a pretty fun cast overall. I never really saw the need to do much with the English dub, but I figured I'd watch it this time so I have something to talk about. But
well, to note, their cast never changed throughout the releases, the movie, the TV show. It's always the same cast in Japanese.
Mm-hmm. So they had, and I'm looking at it looks like the English dub has a couple of somewhat familiar names, but not a lot of them.
Not in the OVA.
Yeah.
OVA.
Right.
I mean, they have Wendy Lee as Erd and Mini Goddess. But yeah.
Yeah. This version of Erd was a little, I think they were trying for sultry, and it kind of came off as a little, it was interesting.
I didn't mind Erd and Belle Dandy. I thought that was a great voice for Belle Dandy and the dub. I like both of those. I like both the sub and dub for both of those characters.
Mm-hmm.
And Kenichi is about the same for me on both as well. The one that I had unfortunately had to accept one or the other, and I felt like I was getting hit with both, was Scald. Scald literally hurt my ears in the Japanese. So, and her voice aggravated me in the English dub. So I was kind of darned if I do, darned if I don't. So I chose the option that allowed me to just listen to it and move forward.
I mean, early on, when this OVA came out, the comics would have only had shrill Scald, to be fair. So
and I will admit, Scald, it's been a hot minute since I've seen the actual series or the movies or even Mini Goddess. I don't think it's been as long as Roger said it has for him, but it's been a while. So I could be remembering this wrong, but I feel like the events of the first 3 episodes and the introductions of each sister were pretty close to the way they were done in the series.
Yeah, they were. There's a few changes here and there in the OVA, and of course, a little bit more of a change in the TV remake.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, the main change would have been Belle Danny's outfit was a little bit different.
Right.
Because I'm literally looking at the pages as we talk.
Right.
And of course, KG had some dirty mags. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to watch a what looked to be a porno tape when it turned out to be Erd's way of transporting him.
Well, in the series, Erd is the one that goes about and does the Rama 1/2, going only top exposed.
I'm not surprised. It seems in character for her. But yeah, basically with the where I was going with that is that yes, your introduction to Skuld is she's basically a brat. She's basically yes, when it comes to technology and programming and whatever, she's pretty on point. She is a very, very, very intelligent, and she can get the job done because she can have the single-minded focus that a young person can sometimes have. But she is the little sister who misses her big sister, and whether she'll admit it or not, she probably misses both her sisters. As the series goes on, her and Erd become like a pair. They're constantly palling around together. So she won't admit it at first, but she probably...
They're constantly fighting, too.
They are. But, you know, it's because they love each other. But that's pretty much it. She comes in and she does some very bratty things because she sees Keiji as a threat. And I will admit, I don't pay too much attention to the vocal. Well, I'm not as sensitive, I guess you might say, to certain elements of the vocal register as some people are. Not sensitive, I'm going to say, in the sense that they don't bother me as much. But Skuld's behavior definitely gets on my nerves from time to time, and especially in that first episode.
Until she falls in love, she pretty much is just shrill brat
Yeah.
throughout the comic.
But, and again, she has her moments. She has her good graces, but yeah, much of the time she's annoying. But, so basically, I guess we can do pretty easily an episode by episode with this because it's so short. The first one is basically the first handful of episodes of the series, probably the first volume of the manga, if I'm correct guessing. The first couple volumes.
I'm trying to see if there's a second chapter before. No.
Yeah.
It goes a little more in depth of the first chapter.
Okay.
But
yeah. The basic gist of it is you have Keiichi Morisato is he goes to Nakomi Tech, which is a technical school, and he lives in a dorm with a bunch of guys, and his senpai, if we've mentioned before, Tamiya and Otori, they're good guys. They're big-hearted guys. They love everyone in the club. They love the club. They're really, really, really good guys in terms of they will help you out. But they're also really, really dense. And they also think nothing of fobbing menial tasks on their kohai.
Yeah.
So Keiichi finds himself house sitting one day while everyone's out doing something on their own.
Dorm sitting.
Dorm sitting.
It's the boys' dorm.
Yeah. House sitting, dorm sitting, same. It's for him.
No, it's the reason why he gets kicked out.
Yeah, they do pick on him. They do tend to pick on him a lot, and they tend to get him in trouble a lot.
They do.
They are definitely annoying characters. Maybe not super annoying, but they are annoying at times.
Yeah, they're kind of like you see this a lot. Well, I guess you see this a lot in anime, but I was going to say you see it a lot in older anime. You know, like a good example, they would be sort of a functional equivalent for Keiichi of the fellow apartment mates in Ikoku, except that they're not evil and twisted. You know, they're just the mischievous. And again, I don't think what's
staff or people weren't evil.
They were just heavily mischievous to the point where
yes.
I think. Well, I mean, Yotsuya.
I don't know. Yotsuya might have been considered.
Yotsuya
at one point straight up, more than once, I think, but definitely at least once, straight up called Godai his plaything. Yeah. I mean, that's.
Though I'd almost say Akimi definitely walked the line, and that's
yes. They all had much more darkness and selfishness to them. But again, these guys, I think they're just they're a little too dim-witted, I think, for it to be malicious exactly.
They're meatheads.
What's that? Yeah, they are. They're total meatheads. But anyway, they have left Keiichi dorm sitting. He gets hungry. He calls every pizza joint or whatever. He calls every food service in the book, apparently, and is just striking out again and again and again. And then he picks up the phone and he gets, hello, this is the Goddess Helpline. And he's like, he thinks that his senpai are playing a joke on him. But really, before he even fully has time to react to that part, that's when Beldandy comes through the mirror for their consult. Basically, comes in to consult with him.
That's one of the first somewhat change from the manga. It was just one phone call. Keiichi was trying to call back to a number to reach Tomiya, and he misdialed.
And correct me, I feel like I've seen that, so I feel like maybe that was what they did in this series.
They did it right in the anime.
Okay, because I felt like the whole him calling everyone in the book, I'm like, I don't think that's the same. So okay, so I remember that correctly. Good deal.
Oh, though I do like that. I do like the concept of he's trying to phone in pizza and then ends up getting that goddess helpline by mistake.
Right.
In the movie, okay, Brittany, you might have better memory than I do because I haven't watched the movie in probably a good 15 years. So, in the movie, do they reference this series or do they reference the manga when they do flashbacks towards?
Neither. The movie is its whole own entity in a sense, with the exception of it did kinda follow the Lord of Terror story arc.
Okay. So and it is interesting that they did. Again, it's really interesting the order they put these things out. Like, you'll occasionally will see a movie come before a series, but it's rare that you see it. Usually the movies are like a spin-off or a bonus story, or in rare occasions they advance the plot. But like I said, it's really rare you see one come out before.
Yeah, I've only seen it one other time, and it was recent, and it was Oshinoko.
You said the first episode was basically a movie, right?
The first episode is a movie.
Because they've done that a couple of times. Like they've done like a big first episode or something.
No, they literally released it in movie theaters.
Oh, okay. I still need to see that. The other one that comes to mind is Clannad, because they put out the movie right before they put the series out. And the movie is basically an alternate telling with vastly different production level from the series. But it's kind of interesting how they did that. But so anyway, so she comes in and she's like, I'm a goddess. How may I be of service to you? Essentially gives him a little bit. And he thinks it's a prank. He thinks that his senpai, I'm here alone. They're just putting me on, all that kind of stuff. He is definitely taken aback by her beauty, because Beldandy is gorgeous. And she's wearing this really fancy clothes. He's just kind of doesn't really know what to do with the whole thing. And she says, I can grant you a wish. And he basically, again, is not taking this seriously because, and I can relate, the whole I'm just not that lucky idea, and he's like, well, I just wish you could stay with me. I just wish you could just stay here with me forever. And she consults with the powers that be, and she's like, your request is granted. And so she comes to stay with him. And then he's kind of dawning on him what's actually happening. She starts talking about the what do they call it? The ultimate force, I think it is. Yeah. And how if anything were to happen, that the universe from here on will kind of conspire to keep them together. And that's when he brings up, wait a minute, we're in a boys' dorm. And the universe, in the form of all the guys in the club, come and throw them unceremoniously out of the dorm. And so, I'll go ahead and pause here. Like, what are y'all's thoughts on that particular setup, that particular meeting between the two, and so forth? And anyone who does have commentary on how different this version is from the others, feel free.
Well, it's basically a classic meeting of the mystical girlfriend or alien girlfriend or unattainable girlfriend trope. Is where the main character is pretty dumpy average. Yeah, doesn't have much going for him, but he has a charm of some sort. And then you got the completely unreachable girlfriend that swoops in and says, "Hey, I want to be with you," and then they go on from there. I mean, it's a good and beautiful scene. You know, it's all right. You know, I enjoyed at the time. I really thought it was pretty engineering, because at that time I was pretty new in the anime still, and I had not seen something quite like this kind of setup before.
I mean, I like the same. When they have her going, I think it's one of the things that they have is that each of the goddesses uses a different method of transportation, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
With Beldandy, it's mirrors. With Erd, it's
TV
televisions. And
Gold is water.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is odd, because Erd is the past, Beldandy's the present, and Skuld's the future. Because they're based off of the fates of Nordic culture.
Yeah, especially when they get into Erd's backstory later. It's interesting.
Yeah, she's not altogether all what she seems to be. So
right, but yeah,
they don't get far enough to go that far in this series.
No.
It is kind of interesting, though. It is interesting if Erd represents the past, that she moves through technology. That's kind of interesting.
Now, you would almost think that
on the entry on the beginning, the beginning animation. I actually did watch the beginning, of the sequence and the Oh My Goddess. Yeah, actually, that does show characters you never get to see in the OVA.
Yeah. It does.
So it assumes that they assume that the audience know what they're watching. So
you see Banpei.
The first time I had no idea who are these other people. I had no idea.
They show Banpei, which is Skuld's robot.
Yeah.
It was created pretty much right after she's introduced. And you see the troubadour.
And probably the biggest notable one for me, because you see Marlar, and you see her little hench demons.
Or genie henchman.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that they were planning on doing more episodes with this series?
I really think they did, because OVAs at that time were generally at 7.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite possible, if not probable, that they were. Well, actually, in the end credit commentary, they introduced the fourth one with Skuld complaining.
Hey, Arth.
Episode left, and they might have. I don't know if they planned to do that one as a 2-parter the way they kind of did, or
the problem is they were running into 3 major storylines.
Yeah.
With where they left off. One was the terrible Miss Erd. The other one was Mara. I forget what they called that arc. And also Peyorth, which was Guardian of Earth, I think.
Peyorth, yes. The other
description.
There was a big, I believe, if I remember correctly, I think she was Rei Sakuma in the voice cast. So they may have planned on more, but honestly, I got the strong vibe that they were probably doing that as much as anything to kind of say, if y'all read the manga, you get to meet all these characters.
There are parts of these that really want you to read the manga a lot of times. Sometimes the anime is just easier for the manga.
Up until recently, anime was made to sell the manga or to sell the light novel.
Actually, one of my favorites is the Tenchi series, which literally was made to be a companion piece. Actually, the manga was made to be a companion piece to Tenchi because, if I recall correctly, when you read No Need for Tenchi, it starts directly after the original.
It's so confusing.
It's actually, that's one I still have the entire run of. I've heard they've started up another series again, though. But I remember reading it, and it's like, wait, I don't get this. And it's like, yeah, you should have watched the anime. It was like a line in there, like, huh?
Yeah. It didn't help. There were 2 anime in English by the time the manga was coming out.
Yeah. There are they do that occasionally, and sometimes it's frustrating as hell. Sometimes it's it depends on the particular one. One that comes to mind that pissed me off was Umineko When They Cry, because it was such a fun, enjoyable anime right up until you get to the part where the 2 main characters have finally figuratively crossed swords, and it's like, now we're getting to the there's no more anime. They want you to go read the novels and play the game.
Yep.
It's X99 1999. Oh.
Well, X1999 was meant to get you to go, what the hell?
And then you had to go read the manga.
And
they did fix that in X, technically.
Yeah.
Well, the later X TV series kind of begun it, and then they kind of finished out the storyline. But the manga was never ever finished all the way through. They gave up because
I'm talking about the first movie. They did release the movie before they did the anime.
Did they ever? I know that the author died, but did they ever decide that they were going to finish off the story for Berserk, or does it just end because the author?
No, Berserk.
No.
No.
Mura's art group, they decided to carry on because I think Mura had a really close friend that knew what was going on with the story, so they decided to keep going on with the Berserk manga series.
So they're doing a Brandon Sanderson with Robert Jordan.
Kind of.
That's right. They're going to Frankenstein it. They're going to put together and hope that people, the fans will accept it.
Which is another where the anime for the longest time was the prequel to the main series.
Well, they did like the Band of the Hawk arc more than anything else. I wish they could have gone beyond it to the Black Scorpion, something different.
Yeah.
And sadly, the first anime of Berserk, which is the one no one can get, is the best.
Aren't they releasing it now on Blu-ray?
I don't know. I hope so.
I thought they
saw news about that.
Well, see, Berserk was remade again by another studio.
They've had 3 remakes.
Studio.
Though they got the movies, then you actually had one that did go beyond that first arc, but it was done all in kind of janky computer animation.
Which I enjoyed. Still, I thought it had the appropriate amount of violence in it.
All right.
Yeah.
So.
But back to the anime we're talking about.
Kind of like a opposite anime of Alma Goddess. Alma Goddess is a janky series. Mostly there's very not much going on with earth shattering situations. Other than Kenichi falling in bad luck or having a competition going on, or
I feel like they do get into some pretty high stakes stuff, but not quite. Yeah.
I seem to remember there was
It was always
dark,
the little tease.
some sort of dark force or dark god was supposed to be like released. It's many years ago I read this thing, but that was kind of like the most serious I've seen that I have remembered from it.
Right.
It was some sort of god in a jug. Some sort of weird jug looking thing.
Oh crap! I'm gonna have to buy that.
Oh yeah, the jug. Yeah, okay.
But
What's up?
any case, yeah, let's keep going through.
Yeah.
I guess. Mhm.
So, so we basically, this setup does set up the two of them as kind of the almost painfully cute couple that just rapidly everyone kind of they become a pair in everyone's eyes, pretty much.
Well,
And
they
then-
are a pair.
yeah, right.
Actually, it's probably one of the most refreshing things when I look back at this.
hmm
When we're in a field of nothing but harems and this, there are very few that have such an innocent and kind of just saccharine sweet romance
Right.
that's just straight out like this. I think My Love Story was one that has something like that.
Fly Me to the Moon. Great
That's
one, recent one, same concept.
And I do love that this is something that you see, especially as far back as this is. That's pretty impressive, actually, because they were just getting started with the harem stuff back then.
And they do and this one, ironically enough, does set some of the templates for what would become harem staples. You know, the plethora of attractive women moving in with the protagonist and all this kind of stuff. Like there, it does.
Definitely with Tenchi Muyo, you get that trope in spades. Yeah.
It was more in Tenchi and Takahashi works at the time.
Right. Well, I mean, like I said, I'm not saying it's a harem or a proto harem. I'm just saying some of the hallmarks. This is part of the origin. But yes, Ranma was already doing that of having multiple.
Ursa Sir already did it.
Yes. Well, I guess in Ranma they weren't really moving in per se, but same idea. You know, it's a similar idea, I should say. With this one, though, you know they get kicked out, and they end up traveling around, and finally Belldandy kind of gets this idea of like, okay, I know where we need to go, and she directs Kay, and they end up in an old abandoned temple on the edge of town, and basically end up just taking up residence in this temple.
Now, I think we forgot to talk about the Ultimate Force.
Well, we mentioned
No, we
it a
talked
little
about
bit.
the Ultimate Force.
Yeah.
The
But
Ultimate Force ended up making the
Thinking
roommates
what
kick them out.
Yeah.
Because I think what Bill Daney said, I felt this movement in this direction,
Yeah.
and the Force I think was directing him. But I also get the impression that the shrine was actually Belldandy's shrine.
Well, they
No,
come in later.
it's
in
the Buddha shrine.
comics. Yeah,
Yeah.
they come in later in the comics, and the actual owners of the shrine show up, and
Right.
they have a housing crisis, but it gets resolved, obviously.
Didn't
But
they show up in the series? I feel like I remember.
Not in the OVA, but in the anime, yes.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I feel like I had a vague memory of that. And then, of course, we meet some of the other residents in Mini Goddess, where the rat Gon is one of the main characters.
Gon is
Gon.
the mini goddess version of Keiji.
Pretty much. That's
Except
actually
funnier.
that's one of the funny things in Mini Goddess. You basically have Erd and Skuld in chibi form palling around with Gon. Every now and then Belldandy gets pulled in. But Keiji you only pretty much see walking around like in shadow, or you hear him off screen now and then. Like he's pretty much a cameo in that series.
I mean, Mini Goddess was originally just the filler in the manga books,
Yeah.
where if you have an empty page between chapters, you would fill in with a Mini Goddess.
Like a bonus chapter, basically. Yeah, good time.
It's just a 4-panel
Right.
joke.
Right. And the show's kind of set up like, you know, you would expect something with that origin to be. And they're short episodes. What were they, like 10 minutes long? Something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's always fun. And in this one, I think the only one who uses her chibi form in this one is Erd. She uses it a couple times to spy. And I think one time you do see her with a rat, but that's something that they didn't do much with here. But second episode, of course, introduces Erd. And she also thought that Keiichi and Beldandy were entirely wholesome. Hey, Mike McNally. How's it going? In fact, Erd thought they were too wholesome and that they would never get anywhere at the rate they were going. And so she basically...
She's kind of right.
What's that?
She was kind of right.
She is kind of right. It's like when I think of Keiichi and Beldandy, I think of the phrase stupid in love, because they're like, they are absolutely stupidly in love with each other and both too dense to realize it. What is going on?
Not mine. They're definitely not mine.
I know it's not mine.
Okay, that's Roger's.
Okay. There we go. That was weird.
We got it figured out.
But it was and I'll just go ahead and say with this, I think probably from the word go, from my first introduction, Erd was always my favorite character. I love her. She is fun.
She's the element of chaos, and most people love the element of chaos.
Yes. She's not as chaotic as she could be, especially once we learn about her origin in the series, which they don't go into here. But
she's more chaotic in the manga.
Yeah. Well, from what you say, apparently, if the show was made nowadays, it probably, well, maybe not nowadays, but 5 years ago, it probably would have been a very different looking show.
Well, it definitely would be censored these days.
Yeah, unfortunately. But yeah, she does, as Brandon alluded to earlier, one day Kay gets a random, we should also mention that Kay has a younger sister, Megami, who moves in, sort of moves in. She moves in and moves out, like gets, crashes with them while looking for a place. But she comes to the same school and she is a year behind him. And she becomes fast friends with Beldandy and eventually with all the sisters.
Well, everybody becomes fast friends except for Sayoko.
Yeah. Well, Sayoko's jealous, but
yeah.
Just about everyone who makes any effort to get to know Beldandy falls in love with her. She's one of those people. But but anyway, I think Megami is the one who brings the package and drops it off. And she's like, by the way, you got a package. And he wisely waits until she and Beldandy are gone before he opens said package and finds what appears to be a porn tape. Not questioning its origin, he plops it in.
I don't remember if it was in the anime, but the tape in the comic, it says Sexy Sister #1.
Ah.
On it.
That makes sense.
That's why he hides it.
That makes sense. I could see Erd very much believing that is a honest and legitimate title. But so he puts it on and we see her on screen kind of, moving around a bit suggestively. And of course he gets in for a good look, only to have her foot come through the TV and bop him on the head a little bit. And that surprises him, to put it mildly. And as we said before, she uses television to get around. So she comes out of the TV and basically takes him to task. Like, what are you planning to make a move on my sister? Are you going to do anything? And she tries to imply, she tries to get him to be more aggressive, to be more active. And I believe she probably gives him something at this point. I'm trying to remember.
She dopes him.
Right. She was it her who put the idea in who put the idea for them to go to the beach? I'm trying to remember that.
Considering it's anime only, I'm forgetting.
I think Megumi.
Probably Megumi.
I think she said that she had gone to the beach for the summer, and Beldandy said something like, "Oh, I've never seen the ocean. I'd like to." I believe this was while they were talking before he even met Erd. And I guess after meeting her, I think he decides to go for it. And she gives him a special bottle of suntan lotion, what have you, that he's supposed to put on Beldandy, and it's supposed to make her very much more receptive. Let's put it that way. And of course he goofs it. Of course he messes it up. That's, he spills it and it falls in the sand.
Erd is notorious throughout the series to try and drug either Keiichi or Beldandy.
She's also, you kind of see it in the OVA. I seem to remember this being a running plot line through the series too. She has a tendency to have things often literally blow up in her face, but like things don't go as planned, basically.
Oh yeah.
Things.
Oh yeah. No, she has a chaotic element that plays into it that continuously causes disaster.
Right.
It's her mother's side.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that is true. We don't meet Hild in this version, but she is an interesting character too.
We don't even get a proper Hild in the other anime. We only kind of get a dry version.
Right. It's enough to at least get a rough idea and to get a better idea for where Erd comes from. But as you said, I'm sure it goes into much more depth in the manga. Again, I really want to read that one of these days.
And of course, actually, Erd doesn't just try to drug Beldandy and Keiichi. She's successful in drugging them multiple times.
The end of this episode, actually, she gives Keiichi a love potion. He and Beldandy are kind of on fragile terms because they're both feeling really insecure. And he takes the potion and it wakes up to someone knocking on the door, and it turns out it's Sayoko and not Beldandy, which, again, Erd's stuff not going according to plan. He ends up hitting hard on Sayoko, and she is actually taken aback and like, whoa, what is going on here? Because she's been flirting with him, but she also is sort of I wouldn't say she's an Ajosama type, but she's kind of in that sort of that ballpark. She's clearly got more money. She's clearly got a higher upbringing, as they say. She's very snooty. But she actually does seem to have a flirty interest in Keiichi. And so, one reason why she and Beldandy often don't get along is there is a jealousy there.
Well, when she's introduced, Sayoko's introduced, she's already has an interest in Keiichi.
Right.
Just like, I'm trying to I forget her name, but the glasses girl in the club has a little bit crush on Keiichi.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, we only see Hasegawa briefly, and I think the last episode of the OVA, like we see her a couple times, but she actually, he asks a favor of her, and you can tell that she's got a little bit of a thing for him, but
he just had no confidence in himself.
Right. So basically, and I believe actually Sayoko was responsible for him spilling the sun lotion in the first place. Like she surprised him when he was about to do it somehow. I can't remember exactly how, but she was at the beach
Yeah, I
with a
think
bunch of
so.
friends. Yeah. So basically, she came by to apologize, and that's why she was at the door. And the potion works insofar as it forces him to go very much against his nature. He does aggressively go after her, like put the moves on her, but you can tell that his heart is not in it. He is moving like a robot, and you do get a little bit of voiceover of him trying to fight against the potion. And she is actually completely taken aback. And of course, Beldandy walks in and is momentarily shocked. But once she knows what's going on, you know, he gets enough control to run off, and she goes running after him. And then once she realizes what's going on, she calls Erd out. And Erd comes out and fesses up to, "Hey, I was just trying to help," and then Erd gets the message that yeah, you screwed up. You're stuck on Earth for a while.
Yeah, because she wasn't supposed to go to Earth.
Yeah.
And she...
I believe Beldandy said she was supposed to be the one helping the
yeah.
The
she was supposed to take over Beldandy's space.
Yeah. But like the unstoppable force, that was sort of the department that she was supposed to be watching, which is why some of this stuff was happening that probably shouldn't have been able to happen. So basically, for dereliction of duty, she gets banished temporarily from the heavens and crashes in. He moves in and crashes and ends up mooching off of Kay and Beldandy for a while.
Yep.
And,
not for a while. All the time.
Oh yeah. No, I don't recall that she ever does get to go home in the series, but yeah. And then the third episode, we see Skuld introduced. And, well, we've already talked a little bit about her as a character. She comes in, and this is kind of a common harem trope, but it's not strictly harem. It's in a lot of anime. And I know Brandon loves this one. Skuld comes in through the water, which happens to be the bath that Keiichi is taking. And of course, she shrieks, calls him a pervert, and hits him with her hammer. And it's like, yeah, he's just minding his own business. And he's the one who's naked. So who's the pervert in this situation? But that after that fun intro, we find out that she basically, we do find out that, yeah, she just was sad. She was lonely. She wanted to come visit her big sis. And she thinks that Keiichi has done some sort of mind trick on her. Like somehow he's trapped her in this loveless arrangement or some such thing. And she's there to save Beldandy. And yeah. And I feel... Am I remembering correctly? Because I feel that this episode deviated a little more from the way it was presented in the series than the other two did. But maybe I'm just
little bit. Yeah. It's pieced together from multiple stories.
Okay.
And that's what's going to happen for the next two as well.
Okay.
That they basically took Skull's introduction and another storyline featuring Skull, because I believe they had one of the races.
They did.
One, just use the machine file. And so, yeah, they were two separate stories. Skull was originally brought to deal with the bugs on Earth, which he does in this OVA. And she, yes, hates Keiichi from the get-go. It takes a while for Keiichi to actually warm up to her.
For her to warm up to him, really.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for her to warm up to him.
He tries. He does try.
He tries throughout the whole manga.
Yeah.
But she's always that tsundere type character.
Right. She,
at least to him.
Well, again, I think with a lot of characters, like she's completely open with her admiration for Belldandy, and she's mostly pleasant-ish to most people, but she's downright vicious to Keiichi, and again, her and Erd fight like cats and dogs. But again, I really do think that with both of them, they really do care for each other. It's just she in particular doesn't like to admit it.
She has a harder time hating on Keiichi unless she's thinking about it at the time.
Yeah.
Because sometimes she catches herself being nice to him by accident.
Yeah.
But she, like I said, she's not tsundere, so to speak. She's just annoying.
She's in that element.
She has tsundere qualities, but she's definitely not a textbook example. This episode also introduces that I believe the guy's name is Toshiyuki Aoshima. Is he I think it's Aoshima. He's the really prissy rich dude who makes Sayoko almost look decent. He is. Oh,
he's always an ass.
He is. He's the Kuno of this series, and they actually start a rival club. This tiny little tech school has two different auto clubs, just because he thinks he's too good for the other one. So he starts their own club. And apparently, he and Tamiya and Otake had a wager before they even let Keiichi know, first of all, that he will be racing in this race, and second, that he's going to be building the car himself. They had already wagered for Belldandy's hand that this guy would be able to claim her if, God forbid, he should win at the race, which kind of puts the pressure on. And Keiichi, of course, is freaking out until he finds out that Skuld had, in a bit of boredom combined with just sort of a rebelliousness, had actually taken his blueprints that she had thought were some of the worst blueprints she'd ever seen and rewrote them so that they were great. And it turns out once he and Megami look at these blueprints, they're like, we can work with this. We can make this bike something that could win. So she inadvertently helped him, and she was very upset about that. And then I believe when it came time to the race, they don't really show it, but they strongly imply that she had fixed the rivals' cars to make them better.
She didn't.
What's that?
She didn't, though.
Okay.
They hint at it, But yeah, it would kind of go against even Skuld's character, so they can hint at it, but they wouldn't do it. I don't even know if Fushima would allow that.
They do leave it open-ended, but you're right. They don't. There's no evidence one way or the other. There's just you see her being. What's that?
Erd would have done it.
Erd would have done it, yes, if she could. If she had done it, though, one of the bikes would blow up. But you see Skuld kind of skulking around, and then Aoshima makes the comment of, "Wow, this car never did that in trials." But like I said, that's all you get. So you can decide if she did anything or not. But whatever the case, I believe Beldandy ended up, because I believe she was the one who was basically praying, let him win. And the other car does end up ultimately overheating, and Keiichi is able to limp across the finish line.
The ultimate force.
What's that?
The ultimate force.
Exactly. The ultimate force, because they were not going to be split up, And, of course, they're victorious. And, and I believe Skuld had... What was it she specifically did? Or no, she wasn't actually banished at this point. And I think she just decided to stick around, right?
She decided to stick around, and then she got banished after she helped Erd with the gate.
Yeah.
Ultimate circle of warding that they cast to create a counter force to the force that was affecting Kenichi and Beldandy, causing some sort of bug port. That happens in the 5th and 6th episode.
Yeah.
The 4th and 5th. Yeah. No, I was going to say in this episode, but we're ready to go to those last 2 episodes, which are the 4th and 5th episodes, the second disc of the Animego release. They have it starts with Keiichi having a very, very, very bad dream that turns out to be kind of a prophetic dream, where he and Belle are having so much fun and they're doing so well, and he gives her a ring and they promise to be, but then she's like, but I'm a goddess, I can't stay with you. And it ends with him being very upset and waking up. No, he's not happy. And then I believe that we start seeing weird stuff going on. They go outside. We see that Erd and Skuld are having a snowball fight. Skuld has her little mini mech, that snowball machine.
Benpei.
Yeah, Benpei. And Erd creates basically a snow golem, and they're getting ready to go at each other. And then Kay and Beldandy come out and going, this is weird. Was snow in the forecast? I don't remember that. But they're getting ready to go to school, and they go out the front of the temple, and it's bright and sunny, and there's no snow anywhere. And we find out that it's only the temple, and they're like, that's not right. There's something going on here. And then I believe that's when Skuld spots the bug, and she manages to catch and kill the bug, and the snow disappears. Everything's good.
It was kind of interesting that I think it was some sort of like a rice cooker thing that she modified to become a bug trap.
Yes,
yeah.
She had. Yeah, it reminded me of
who just used the rice cooker. Yes,
I always like the design of the bugs in this.
Right. They're like six-legged rabbits that cause all kinds of local havoc.
The trap reminded me a lot of like
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, exactly.
Trap. Yeah,
and I just thought that was kind of amusing. But yeah, they come to find out there's actually a lot of bugs. And it's like, wow, where did all these come from? And Scold figures out that there's this weird zone that they seem to be emanating from that somehow is between Keiichi and Baldandi. And the
When they
whole
get close.
idea, what's that?
When they get close.
Yes.
Yeah, it's some sort of bug port. There's like a
Yes.
gate between this world and the
Mhm.
Yogasuro place where the goddesses live at. There's a tree thing that manages the universe,
Right.
and the bugs they inhabit
Grozzle.
the place and causes havoc with the tree, and all kinds of problems happen. But now they're visiting Earth.
Mm-hmm. Which causes a lot of concern, obviously.
Yeah, better believe it did. It's a problem.
And Scold probably with no small amount of personal satisfaction says that you two need to stay apart. Like it's the closer you get, the worse this is going to get. And so she does go about trying to do research and figure out all the problem and how to fix it, and Erd helps her with that. Keiichi ends up going off to school on his own, and ultimately Baldandi does go to school on her own separately. And every time they encounter each other a couple times at school, and stuff starts breaking, or like a window shatters, a vending machine blows up. Some stuff is going on pretty badly. And meanwhile, there's a rumor flying around school that they're breaking up, which of course Sayoko comes in and kind of makes a move, or rather, she comes and talks to Baldandi like, hey, what's going on? And the rumor's also going around. Keiichi told Megami that Baldandi has to go home in 3 days because she put a call in to her father, and he's like, yes, it'll take me 3 days to set up the gate. I want you here in 3 days. So they're very both of them are very upset about the impending departure. And I think it's Megami who puts the idea in Keiichi's head that if he does something like some big grand romantic gesture, then maybe that'll help. So he goes to his senpai and asks if they have any work for him. And then that's where Hasegawa chips in and says, oh, well, there's also this. So he ends up working those 3 days, just work, because there's a ring he wants to buy for her, and he's trying really hard to do it before she has to go. Meanwhile, Erd and Scold are hot on the case of trying to figure out what is attracting the bugs there in the first place. And Baldandi's mostly just wallowing in
It's almost like defeat.
sadness. Huh?
It's almost like defeat that she's given up.
Almost.
Well, she's
Impossible.
knitting a sweater, though, for Keiichi.
She does knit a sweater so that something is left behind, but she's also methodically removing
Memories.
traces of herself.
Yeah.
All the pictures and everything. And honestly, I didn't really notice this as much before, but watching it in the English dub, it definitely, these episodes, there's a lot of kind of a maudlin feel to part of them. They get pretty depressing at times.
Oh, yeah.
Not as much I thought in the original dub, but maybe I need to rewatch it. But overall, though, there's still a little bit of fun in there. But yeah, there's a very real chance that she will have to go. He has his solution of the ring. Skull does find out that there's a tree on the property that seems to be the point of attraction. And Baldandi sees it and just breaks down in tears and runs away and won't explain to anyone why she won't help with that. She's like, I can't. Like, and eventually we find out why. But for a while, it's kind of like, well, she must have a really good reason. But they figured out the problem, and she figures that nothing can be done about it. So of course, Skuld and Erd take matters into their own hands, and they decide to do basically a warding spell to counteract whatever their father might be trying to do. Or, I was a little bit unclear actually about exactly what they were doing. Like if it was,
they were trying to reflect the gate.
The tree was caused. There was some sort of event that happened with the tree.
Right.
There was a tree that was giving off bad energy.
Right.
And that tree was like the site of Beladandy's and Kenichi's earlier promise. There was a big promise made. And because it was putting out energy, it was feeding the bug port. And what Erd and Skuld was doing, they were making what they call an ultimate circle of warding to throw a counter force at the tree and close up the port so the event will go away.
Right. So that's what I was trying to say. Like, I was wondering, like, is it more focused at the energy from the tree? Absolutely. Or was it more focused at blocking the gate? Or was it supposed to have a dual purpose?
It had two. Remember, Erd said this book killing 3 problems with 1 stone.
Okay.
So yeah, this would take care of the whole thing, but there would be a price to pay.
Oh yeah,
now,
and there was.
I gotta say, as a comic reader, this pissed me off.
Okay.
This part pissed me off.
Okay.
Because there is no flashback of Keiichi and Belldandy.
Yeah.
So that was an anime original.
That was not only an anime original, a really irritating one.
He did comment at some point, it's like I've known her my whole life, but yeah, I couldn't remember if that was something I had seen in another iteration or not. But
the movie, I think, tries to play off of it.
Okay.
But it never happens in the manga.
Okay. So basically what Roger alluded to, though, is when the gate comes down and the warding seal goes off, it does create a bang of sorts that kind of knocks everyone out. And the goddesses come back too. They come back. But Keiichi is out cold. Like, to the point where Erd's like, he's alive, but I can barely sense him mentally.
During the gate, Keiichi reaches out the ring to give it to Belldandy.
He reaches right into the gate. He forces as far as he can. And he ultimately gets, But he has to fight for it, and he does.
But to no avail. He was not able to give the ring to Belldandy.
Well, not at that point. But yeah. So she volunteered, like Erd's like, someone's got to go in there, and Belle's like, I'll do it. I need to do it. And then, yes, that's where we see the two of them as children. We see this little meeting they'd had and a promise. And it's when they come back, he briefly kind of remembers it and says, okay, well, here I can finally meet my promise, but almost as quickly forgets about it. But now she, but what they've done is they have blocked the gate. The gate is closed. And then we see a little zoom come down from above, and we see something written in the earth. And Erd goes over, I believe, and it's like, oh, okay, well, she basically reads off that these circumstances revolving around the recall are no longer voided. It's called off, basically. In other words, Belldandy can stay and continue to fulfill her contract. Then Erd doesn't notice it at first, but then she looks down and she has to read again. And Erd, for creating the ward, is given a further suspension. And or I think a straight up suspension of her.
Her powers are taken away.
Yeah.
Which is where this would lead into Terrible Master Erd.
Right. And Skuld, for helping with this endeavor, is at this point banished to, what did they call it? Surface training?
Surface worker.
Yeah.
What's that?
Surface apprentice or something like that.
Yeah. So she basically has been busted back down to training level and told to stay on Earth for a while. So, yeah,
Gold in a way, because she can be around Belldandy again.
Right.
And she can actually learn some of the goddess stuff she kind of skipped over.
Yeah. Yeah. It gives everyone, and of course it sets up the whole, everyone's going to be here for a while, and so forth. And that's pretty much it. Pretty much the plot of these 5 episodes. So does anyone have any further commentary on the plot? Anything that we skipped over or that you wanted to revisit or what have you?
Well, we did talk about the Ultimate Force. We talked about the relationships. No, I think we did a pretty good job.
Okay.
I think it was covered.
As far as plot, it's covered.
These final episodes, part of 3, 4, and 5, is about 6 different plot lines from the manga.
Right.
Some elements did occur. The ring issue did occur. It was a Christmas story,
right.
As I recall in the manga. And Belldandy was also doing a sweater for that. They just took bits and pieces here and there from the story and kind of meshed them all together, which irritates further when they go into this childhood story. And what I mean by it irritates me, in the manga, we know that Belldandy's far older. Same with her.
100,000 years old.
And the childhood of Belldandy is way past gone when Keiichi's growing up.
Oh yeah. And that's, like I said, that is one thing that I thought that they made Belldandy in particular looks a lot more like she could very well be his age. She looks very much like that. The anime, the main series, and I want to say the movie as well, she did have a slightly older look, kind of like she might be more like an older sister versus a contemporary. And I think you are right that they mention more specifically that they're much older. In here, it is kind of left open. And I hadn't really thought about that, but you're right. It is kind of interesting to say, well, okay, then she must be a very, very new goddess.
I mean, what bugs me is it's a trope in anime, the childhood friend.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they tried to make Belldandy the childhood friend in this OVA.
Oh, yeah.
I would have been fine if they just let that off.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting little scene, but I can see what you mean, and it definitely makes a lot of sense that it wouldn't make a lot of sense if you stop to think about it.
This thing would have benefited from a scene at the end where they're rummaging through the theater looking for money to fund more episodes.
That's a series you need to put on your list, Brandon.
Right.
I know you have it now.
I do have it. I've had it for a long time.
So,
Kind of like a good piece of news. If you do want to continue on with the anime, you can go with the TV series.
Yeah, the
Yes,
TV series has
TV
better and
series.
more accurate coverage of it. But
yeah,
I do like the art style in the TV series a bit more than
Right.
in the OVA. But there is hope at the end of the tunnel that you watch the OVAs and say, well, it's kind of abruptly stops. You know, it's going to poof. There's nothing else. Then you can still have some fun with the TV series, or even read the manga and to see what happens over the course of the 40
Yep.
volumes you can read of it.
so,
You'll at least get the ending with the manga.
yeah.
so
One
are
of
we,
the- one of the reasons I wanted to do this one is because it's so short, but also it really does work pretty well. I think it works as intended. Like I said, I think it was intended with all those characters shown in that opening that we never even met. I think it was intended as a primer to the series, yeah. And it does
might as well
work.
put at the end, go read the darn manga.
But yeah, it's a fun little one. Did anyone have any further comments on the various characters, or we all pretty well covered them, we think?
I think we kind of covered them.
Okay. So let's do a little bit. We've talked a lot already about the production of this, but I'll go ahead and do a couple more notes real quick. It's let's see here. This is who is the main production here? AIC, Kodansha, TBS.
It'd be TBS and the Kodansha,
Right.
mainly.
And music production by Pony Canyon. Okay, that makes sense. So you got a pretty interesting bit of pretty interesting pedigree there. The director is Hiroaki Goda. I want to say there was a reason why that's notable. I'm trying to remember what it is.
Well, Goda did all the Oh My Goodness storylines. He also did Bubblegum Crisis, the Please series, both of them.
Okay.
Loom Into You. Trying to go through some of these later series. Evangelion 1.0 and 2.0. He did not do the other two.
Okay.
A couple other series from here.
Well, those is
Indie Geist.
animation. He's done a lot of animation work. Yeah.
Macross.
Design work.
Yeah. I mean,
He did
he's
animation.
a notable
Ranma
worker.
Ranma movies. Yeah. So, and he's done, apparently he showed up for one episode of Spy Family for the animation. But yeah.
I don't see that. But.
Yeah. Anyway, that's probably the bulk of it then. I mentioned this one does have the opening theme is My Heart Idasanai, Your Heart, Tashika Matai, or the translation I'm seeing here is I can't confess my heart, I want to confirm your heart. Kind of a long title. And the final theme is Congratulations, or Amerito. And they're both by, quote, the Goddess Family Club. I actually have the soundtrack to this OVA. And it's a great soundtrack. There's a whole bunch of character songs on there. My favorite one is a duet between Belldandy and Keiichi called Man and God Love Song, Man and Goddess Love Song. Megami to Otoko no Love Song, I think is the Megami, I think that was the... Well, anyway, I absolutely loved both opener and ender for this. And if you listen to the music playing in the background, most of those tunes are relatable to the soundtrack. Most of the character songs, they play the music from the songs at various points in the series. So I think the music for this one is quite notable. And like I said, I've heard the soundtrack, so it gives it a little extra edge. But I know, Roger, you love to skip the openers and enders.
Yeah.
But
Both
generally,
anime have no interesting openers and enders to me. But Oh My Gosh was pretty good on the opener. Ender was
okay.
like, eh.
I do love the openers of the main series more than this one, but I do love this one too. But did Brandon, Brittany, y'all have anything particular on the music or?
Well, I did want to say one thing on production as it was run over.
Go for it.
That I wanted to say art style wise. I know you commented on it at the very beginning. The way that the artist draws hair, especially with Bell Dandy and clothing, actually, come to think of it, on top of that, to me is very unique in a lot of the manga world, and it does come through somewhat in the anime. Especially, like I said, especially with Bell Dandy's hair, and I just think that's just kind of cool when you see something that sticks out artistically. Especially when I'm looking at a lot of newer series and a lot of newer things, they all look alike to me. So it's
I kind of brought up. I mean, the creator is a technophile or a machine file.
Yeah, it's sort of like with
he goes serious detail into engines and it's mind numbing. How much detail in the machines that he puts together.
Well, it's like Toriyama, if you think about it. If you look at Toriyama, when he draws something, look at the vehicles that he draws. Because he loves vehicles, and they go from like these kind of almost cartoonish looking characters to super detail in the vehicles.
And it makes
I don't give it to Toriyama as much.
Not as much, no.
I'd say, probably like the creator of Jujutsu Kaisen, who does so much detail in their work, or Chainsaw Man, the creator of that series. Both of them are highly detailed with machines.
Right.
I mean, it's a technique you don't see, and it shows because he did another series where he focused on machines as well.
Well, and definitely here. I mean, both here you got Keiichi and his whole club, and including his sister, his senpais, Hasegawa, all of them. You have the rival club, but also again, and You're Under Arrest. One of the two main characters is a total auto geek. Like she is a major grease monkey, and
loves her Honda.
Yeah. So it's really it makes perfect sense that those themes would be central to both of these shows. So, and you're right. I think the auto machinery does look really good. They definitely put some good detail into that. Of course, the goddess outfits are incredibly intricate and detailed too.
One of the things, this is movie quality in the 90s animation. You wouldn't get this in anime at that time. You get a lot of gouache and watercolor backgrounds, and you got to remember, this is hand-drawn animation. This is hand-painted cells. This is not digital. This is before digital was available.
All right. Well, now we can finish the music, but I don't have anything to. The original question was music for me, and I will say, no, you hit it all. I like it.
Good.
It's a great theme, the opener, but you hit it all.
Sounds good. So let's go ahead and do favorites then. If anyone else has any last minute. And then we'll go into favorites. But anyone have any last minute overall commentary?
No.
Okay. All right, so we'll start with you, Roger. Let's say, who is your favorite character and
Andy.
favorite scene?
Oh, the casting of the ultimate circle of warding was definitely my favorite scene in the whole series.
Okay. Asa Bell Dandy was your favorite?
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
Okay. Good times. How about you, Brandon?
Bell Dandy, and the first episode is my favorite episode of the series.
Okay. All right. And how about you, Brittany?
It's so hard to choose the favorite part of the anime. So I keep flashing back to the comic or the other anime series.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Belle Dandy. There's a reason she's the perfect waifu.
Right.
I have to give it to the end, at least with the Keiichi reaching in the gate scene, because it's nicely animated, really nicely animated.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to dare to be different, but I already said is my favorite. But I do love Belle Dandy. She is a definite second. But I have to admit, she's too perfect. It's one of the reasons why I would rate her second. She is the perfect waifu, and that is awesome. But she's not as fun to watch as someone who's chaotic and weird. As far as scenes, I'm probably going to say that Belle Dandy's introduction and her meeting Keiichi the first time probably would be, although kind of like as Brittany said, it's kind of hard sometimes to remember how much of it is this particular iteration of it and how much of it is stuck in my mind from the other version. And but it is a classic scene. And maybe a close second might be the way that Keiichi is introduced to her. That might be. But yeah, I think that about does her. So that's Megami-sama the OVA. And I guess hand it to you, Brandon, to lead us out.
All right. Well, of course, we've had some wonderful guests here tonight. Our normal wonderful guests. We have Roger from Animazing, which is a great Facebook group.
Thank you.
And we've enjoyed all of the stuff that you brought in there, including our Oh My Goddess discussions that we've had in the past. We campaign. I campaigned to get Belle Dandy in, but couldn't get her to beat Haruhi as the goddess of the. And of course, Jake, who's got his well, you've got a channel,
sort of.
And we sort of have a channel here, but when we use it, but we are creating a show together that will debut soon. We only have 2 more episodes to film. And then, of course, Brittany. Well, actually, I will let you explain what you're doing lately on your stuff, because you've got lots of stuff that's usually in the pan.
Unfortunately, lately it's nothing because I'm having to prepare for surgery. But yeah, I've gone quiet for the past month because of family problems with a family member close to their deathbed and my own health. But I do plan to return in March. Mid-March, we're going to come back with a new chapter of Demon Blade as comic-wise. Witchin's going to continue. And also, we're going to have a few changes to the to our streaming schedule. YouTube has finally given us a content strike on our anime reviews. So they're going to be strictly Twitter and Rumble because they're free speech platforms. So, yeah.
All right. Well, and of course, don't forget, if you are also a B-movie horror lover, to check out our Facebook page tomorrow as Amityville Webcam finally drops its physical link tomorrow. So you can buy Amityville Webcam or rent it digitally that day. Which is a movie that I wrote and directed, and actually stars Jake. Jake is the star of the film. So, fun stuff.
So
Any
proud.
case, thank you all for coming, and we will see you on the next one.
Bye.